Hi, my name is Ulysses Owens Jr. and I'm here with EVANS Drumheads, and I'm going to teach you how to tune your drum. Right now I'm playing a Tama Star Reserve metal drum, copper to be specific, and using an EVANS orchestral snare drum because I typically like to have this snare drum kind of set up for orchestral playing because I love working on the hands, and when I'm teaching my students, making sure that they're approaching things kind of from a classical snare drum perspective. So I have that set up. But today I'm going to change to more of my drum set style of playing, and I'm going to use a Calftone drum head. And then the other thing I'm going to do is also change the snare wires to pure sound 16 strand wires. So these are also designed for the concert snare drum, so I hope you dig on the sound of that. So before I switch over, I want you just to hear what this snare drum sounds like with the current setup. All right, let's get started. So first, I like to use two drum keys when I'm changing out drum heads. I'm using the EVANS magnetic drum key, and then I'm using the Calftone EVANS 56 drum key, which is really simple. It's also a keychain, really hip. So I typically like to get the drum with parallel lugs like this and detune this way. It's very quick. And then basically once I get that happening, then I start kind of just work my way around the drum. And I like using the two drum keys simply because it's kind of a quick way to kind of get around the drum a little bit and get the lugs detuned but equally. So now we're almost done. All right, so now that I've done that, I kind of get them detuned this way, and then I start just literally using my fingers to get the screws fully out of the drum. I love doing that because this way I can get a feel for when the lugs are really removed completely from the rim. Kind of quick way, and that takes, a couple minutes, but I think it's important to know the key is making sure that you tune, and when detuning and putting on a new drum head, the right way. It's not about doing it quickly unless you're obviously in a pinch and you're at a gig. It's really about doing it effectively. So the key for me, when I put on a new head, sometimes I get a towel. This is a pretty brand new drum. I'm really fortunate. Tama just sent this to me a few months ago. But I just kind of always take my hand around the rim, make sure kind of the dust from the stick shavings is gone, making sure there's nothing floating around in the drum. This is a metal drum, so there's not too much happening, no dust. So I like to make sure I do that. I really love my logo on the drum head to be basically 12 o'clock or 12 noon to the strainer, which is on the left, because I love, like, even when I'm in the middle of playing, I kind of switch the strainer on and off. So I typically like my strainer to the left. And also I was told many years ago that it's really important to make sure when you play that the snares are playing like they're across. Like, so you're playing on the snare and they're across. Now, some drummers like to play the snare tilted. It really depends on what you're going, kind of what your philosophy is, but this is really my philosophy. So now I got the EVANS Calftone head seated on the drum. Now I'm just like I used my fingers and did sort of the finger tight when I was detuning the drum. I'm doing the same thing when I'm getting the lugs right back in the snare drum, right? So at this point, I'm not really worried about going across the drum. Now I'm just kind of wanting to get everything seated. And when I put the lugs back in, I really get them what I like to call finger tight. So basically, I twist them to the maximum point of tightness that my fingers can get them to. Because I already know I'm gonna go back with this drum key and I'm gonna get it, actually tuned up. So right now, it's not about tuning, it's just about getting the drum seated on, getting the drum head seated on the drum. And, making sure that head is where I want it to be. Everything looks good. And I got these last two screws. All right, so everything is pretty finger tight. You know, twisting it to the maximum amount, you know, making the last few turns. So we're good. And now you see the drum kind of has a little, sort of a little tone, but it's on there. Pretty tight. Now I'm gonna just need one drum key because I'm not, you know, detuning now. I'm just literally going around the drum and tightening it. So I'm gonna start here. And I typically like to do about 2 to 3 turns on each lug, and then I kind of go parallel. And you can even hear the drum kind of tuning up. You hear the drum head kind of starting to send a tone out because now it's starting to get seated on the drums and get tuned. So I just keep doing that, you know, and the more the drum is seated, I kind of take a half turn as opposed to these full turns. And then now I do that for, you know, about 30, 40 seconds. Then I just check to see where I am. So it's still pretty loose. It's nice. Such a great drum. And I feel like when you use the Calftone, man, it just dials a drum in immediately. It's not, you don't have to do too much work with these drum heads. Sounds great. That head feels great on there. Sounds great. So now what we're gonna do, now that we've got the drum head seated and it's exactly where we want it to be, now sort of the last part of the puzzle, which is flipping the drum over. And now we're gonna loosen these wires because I've actually got 2 adjustment parts of the strainer. And we're gonna get a new snare strainer on here. And right now, Tama has their own snare wires that they have on the drum, but we're gonna change out for the pure sound. Great, we're gonna go back to that drum key. And you don't have to really, especially with a snare drum made this well, you don't really have to twist the wires up or untwist the lugs that much. You know, you just get them loose just enough so you can get the strings out. So now we've got some strings on the wires. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get this wire seated in the same place. And again, making sure that we keep them even and parallel. All right, so we got that squared away. Now we can get to getting these, we can proceed with getting these wires dialed in on the drum. So with the snare wires, you want to really make sure that without any extra tension, that those wires are really seated in the, you know, right position. And then you want to tighten them because what's going to happen, to get the wires on, I had to loosen the snare tension. So now we just got to play with the tension and make sure we've got everything dialed in the way we want to dial it in. So now I got to loosen this up. So crisp. tighten this snare drum head up just a touch more so that I can really get it nice and crisp. All right, so there it is. We got the Evans Calftone head on my drum, on my Tama Star Reserve copper drum, and then we added the concert snare, 16 wire strands on there by Pure Sound, and this drum is sounding beautiful. Definitely had a vibe earlier, but it's a completely different sound and a completely more focused and precise sound. So hope this helped you with tuning your snare drum. And you know, this is a really high-end drum, but for those that don't have a chance and an opportunity to have a high-end drum like this Tama Star Reserve, whatever drum you have, make the best of it. And you know, getting a good pair of wires and a good snare drum head can take any snare drum to the next level and help you sound like one of the pros and one of your heroes. So I hope this helped you. Take some of these tips and have fun tuning your snare drum with Evans drum heads and Pure Sound wires. I'm Ulysses Owens Jr.